Well, hello, rally friends, and welcome back to my David.
Do you want to check the sound? Do you want to make sure?
Go away.
Do you want to?
I've checked it. I've checked the sound, David. Go away.
Really?
I've checked it. I've already checked it. You can't do anything these days without David Evans wanting to get in on the act, folks. David. Folks, welcome to my kitchen table. Now, you might be wondering where I am. It isn't my kitchen table. David Evans is quite right. Again, interrupting. I tell you where I am, folks. I'm in Mull. We're here for the Mull rally. And do you know what? I couldn't be in a more beautiful setting. I really couldn't. This is quite remarkable. If you have a look up Salen Pier, S-A-L-E-N Pier, Google it and have a look at the accommodation. This is the only accommodation that you can rent on a pier in the UK. How remarkable is that? It's the oldest working pier on the island, and you can rent this little 2-bedroom place, sleeps 4 people, nice and comfortable. But more than that, the views from all around this are just quite remarkable. That there is the sound of Mull, and you can sit here all day and you can watch boats going up and down, whales, dolphins, seals, sea eagles. There's the odd orca has been spotted in the sound here. It is just the most remarkable place. Now, when we turned up yesterday, the sun was out. This morning, a little bit different. But you can still see, still a lovely view. Anyway, that's where I am, now that David Evans has piped down a little bit and got on with his typing. By the way, got to say a very big thank you to Pete and Jackie. They're the people that are staying in this house this weekend. They made us a lovely cup of coffee and they made us feel very welcome. Thank you very much, Pete and Jackie. Sitting quietly on their own settee there. I've told them they're not allowed to talk in their own house, their own place they're staying. That's really bad, isn't it? Anyway, let's talk rallying, folks, because it's been a big week for rally news. First up, let's talk Craig Breen. Maybe the worst kept secret in rallying, but maybe the best news we've heard in rallying for a long, long time. There's a few things about this deal that are interesting. I think it's the best thing for Breen. I really do. A lot of people assumed that he'd done enough. I think there's no question. He'd done enough to deserve a full-time seat at Hyundai. We'll talk about that later, but I'm slightly perplexed as to why Andrea Adamo let him go from Hyundai. Really slightly perplexed, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Could have gone there. I guess potentially there was a time where he could have gone to Toyota, but neither of those teams could he have gone to as lead driver. So he's going to M Sport, a 2-year deal, lead driver. He'll be very, very much, in fact, he already is very much involved in the development of this Rally 1 car, and that, for Craig Breen, is the perfect situation. That car will be his car, and there'll be a second driver and potentially a third driver at M Sport, but Breen is the number 1 driver. That car will be developed and set up to his liking with his inputs. What does that mean? Well, it means that he'll go into the 2022 season with, fingers crossed, a car he's comfortable with. We know, because it's M Sport, and we know that M Sport, when we make forecasts as to what's going to happen, the only way we can forecast with any degree of confidence is by looking at history, looking at the precedents that have been set in the past. That's all we're doing when we're forecasting. And we look at perhaps the progress of the cars that we've seen in the stages while they've been out testing, and we look at where they are in terms of the development stage. There's no, as I found out from my forecasting of the results at Rally Finland, there's not a huge amount of certainty to any forecast. But we can forecast that M Sport will have made a fantastic car. It will have, without any question, the most kilometres on it. They are prepared for the 2022 season. So Breen will have a very, very competitive challenger underneath him. And is that enough for Craig Breen? Well, Breen isn't quite there yet in terms of being the finished product. Is that David Evans again? No. David Evans, is that you?
Me, no. That's Jackie.
Oh, it was Jackie. Sorry, it was Jackie's house. She can make that kind of noise. If she really wants to, she can make that noise. It's her house. So Breen will have a fantastic car. There's no question about that. He is still on the up. And as anyone who's a regular watcher of the kitchen tables will know, I've talked about Breen's development over the years. He's 31 years old. He's a driver who is yet to reach his maximum. He's maybe, as Craig has said, Paul has said, I think his dad said as well, maybe 90% of the way there. That's still, when you consider the level he is at, that gives massive hope for Craig Breen, for all rally fans, all fans of Craig Breen, for M Sport, for Ford. He doesn't have to make too much more progress and he'll become a winner. A little bit more progress, a regular winner. A little bit more progress still, potentially a world champion challenger. I genuinely don't think we're getting ahead of ourselves by talking about that for next season. I think there's he's going to be up against some remarkably driven and talented opposition. Ogier's out the picture though next year. That opens things up nicely. Tanak will be desperate to regain his crown. Rovanperä will be absolutely supreme and difficult to beat anywhere. Thierry Neuville, runner-up in the championship, how many times? Next year could be his big opportunity. But Craig Breen, for me, has a real chance at it next year if that M Sport car is as good as we expect it to be. It's the opportunity of a lifetime for Breen and Nagel, and no one has worked harder. Not certainly in terms of our current WRC crop. No one has endured more. Craig Breen that we see today has developed, obviously with his experiences in rallying, his experiences in life, it has all gone, in some tragic experiences. He never forgets Jaffa. He never ever forgets Gareth Roberts. Roberts is always with him in the car. And it was a dreadfully difficult time. And if you listen to our Dirtfish podcast, Ray, Craig's dad, talks about that time really emotionally in that podcast. Have a listen if you get the chance. But at the end of the day, all of those life experiences, he uses positively. He uses positively in terms of his own, how he presents himself. He uses it positively in how he approaches rallies. He uses it positively in how he approaches life's challenges. And life is full of challenge, even for the world's best rally drivers. Life is full of challenges. And how you deal with those challenges is a mark of the man you are, a mark of the competitor you are. And Craig Breen has got a whole load of ammunition in his armoury available because he has experienced so much. And as I say, for me, the most exciting thing about Breen, he's not there yet. He's not there yet. 3 podiums as a super sub this year, and he's not as good as he can be. He can get better. You know what? That was demonstrated in Finland. The first day, magnificent. The second day, you got 151 kilometres. A fair number of those were in gloom in the dark. He just wasn't able to find that extra 0.5% that you need to compete with the likes of Tanak and Evans at their very, very best. Just wasn't able, and that was all down to seat time. But that will come next year with rally after rally after rally, getting to know the team, getting to know the car, knowing the rallies, building in confidence. He knows his place now in the championship. He knows that he's amongst the elite. And the elite is a small group. The elite for a number of years was just 2 or 3 drivers. A couple of seasons ago we had 5 or 6 drivers. Oh, someone's telephone. It's the magic roundabout. It's the magic roundabout. That's landlord Pete. That's his telephone going. Magic roundabout. I haven't heard that tune for a wee while. That's an interesting ringtone. And this is what happens when you take over people's kitchens. No problems at all. It just adds a little bit of character to it all. But yeah, as I say, Breen has the potential really to go on and do remarkable things. And I am delighted for Craig and Paul. I'm delighted for M Sport because I thought for a while, particularly after the Tanak and Neuville deals were announced, and then obviously we had the news that Elvin Evans was staying at Toyota, I thought, what are M Sport going to do? We had a number of drivers that were in the mix for that seat, and they just weren't stepping up to the mark. Mickelson, when did he get into a World Rally car? I said it 6 months ago. These other guys had to get into the World Rally cars and show us what they could do. Was there any effort from Mickelson to get a drive in a World Rally car? Not that I could see. He wasn't saying, pick me, I'm your man. Neither was Mads Osberg. Mads Osberg maybe was a real outside shot, both, and let's not take it away from both these drivers. Very accomplished drivers achieving a degree of success in WRC2 cars. And, there were 1 or 2 others, weren't there, in the mix there? Esa-Pekka Lappi for a while. Well, he's got a deal, as we know, with Toyota now. And 1 or 2 others. Hayden Paddon was a bit of an outside shot, but again, he had to get himself into a World Rally car, get back into Europe. Paddon is a different situation, and we'll talk about that at a future kitchen table because Paddon is doing remarkable things. Paddon is an absolute trailblazer in our sport, and whether he gets into a World Rally car or not, he is building a legacy in this sport that actually some world champions won't have in 10 or 15 years' time. Paddon has a legacy already, and it'll be there for many, many years. But we'll talk about that at a later point. As I say, Breen was the man that really that shone out as the potential winner for M Sport. not until Finland did I think Breen could potentially challenge for a world title. But I think his performance in Finland stepped up again. That little notch we've talked about, those little mini steps. I think on the last kitchen table I described him as a crawler in terms of his progress. You know, Kalle Rovanperä is a pole vaulter in terms of his progress. He makes massive leaps forward, massive leaps forward. Craig Breen, he's a crawler. He just takes his time, little steps, little steps, little steps. And Finland was another little step. And we'll see more little steps next year, and it will only take 1 or 2 little steps until he's on the top step of the podium. That is without any question. You know, and again, you have to look at the team behind them. You know, they've got M Sport, Paul Nagel. That is one heck of a partnership between Nagel and Breen. He's got everything. He's got everything. And I, for one, I've watched Craig's career for really 12, 13 years now. Since really got into a car, and he won, I think, the Fiesta Championship in Ireland way back in 2000 and, when was that? 8, something like that. And I couldn't be more delighted. I couldn't be more delighted that he has worked hard, and at last he's got this full-time seat in the championship. It'll be exciting, that's for sure, exciting. Now, the other news. Let's talk a little bit about Hyundai. You know, as everyone knows, I'm a massive fan of Andrea Adamo. You know, he came into this championship and he shook things up. You know, there was nothing standard about the Adamo way, about the Adamo approach. He wasn't afraid to make difficult decisions. There were decisions, as far as I'm aware, 100% at the time that were in the rules. Little bit, you know, and politically, sporting-wise, maybe a little questionable, but within the rules, he would make them. You know, if it benefited the team, he would make those decisions, and you know, and it was great to see. And he just added a little bit of something different. And he still does add something very different to the championship. But the Adamo way is a very particular way. And you know, we've seen this rotation over the years. And I asked him directly 2 rallies ago, do we think we will see part-time drivers in the championship next year with these new cars? And he said, no. He said, I don't think so. He said, we've still to make a decision, but I don't think so. He said, the benefit you will get in road position will actually be outweighed by the problems you have from not having consistent seat time in that car. It is such a different car to drive. So we assumed there would maybe be 3 full-time drivers at Hyundai next year. The perfect team for Hyundai, and the one that they had the opportunity to sign, seal and deliver, was Tanak, Neuville, Breen. That is a world championship team. How in the world did he let that opportunity go? I am just astonished. Breen's first, I'm sure, his first discussion about a contract for next year would have been with Hyundai. He has done everything and more that Hyundai asked of him this year, and they let him go. Okay, great. Well, if you've let him go, you must have a really solid plan to contest the Manufacturers' Championship next year. Well, I tell you what, it's a gamble. It's a massive gamble. Oliver Solberg is a kid with potential. He's a kid with all the credentials. If you ever speak to Oliver Solberg, if you ever watch him working, say on a test or around the service park, the maturity belies his lack of years. He's a remarkably mature, a remarkably capable young man. But he is not, for me, a safe point scorer, which your number 3 driver has to be. He's a work in progress. You know, the pressure that this has put on the young man for me will possibly be telling. We have to watch and see. We have to keep our fingers crossed. Solberg has the potential to go on and become the next Rovanperä, and that is clearly why Adamo has signed him. He didn't want Solberg going off anywhere else. Put him into the team. How do we now fit him into the team? Well, we'll give him a part-time role, even although I don't think part-time is right. I'll give him a part-time role with Danny Sordo, who is the ultimate, not the ultimate, Craig Breen is now the ultimate second driver, share driver, if you like. But Sordo is a very, very safe set of hands for that second seat. I fear that, unfortunately, young Oliver Solberg perhaps is 12 months too early. 12 months. I'd have liked to have seen him doing maybe a 4th car next year on a few events, building his experience, rebuilding his confidence, learning to win again. Learning to win is so important. You know, whether it's in a WRC 2 car or wherever it is, learning to win is important. But what gives me confidence is what I talked about earlier. He has all the tools, Solberg. He has maturity beyond his years. He has the perfect rallying genes in his father, his mother, his grandfather. He's been in a car. You know, he might only be, 19, 20 years old, whatever he is. you know, but he's been driving cars since he was about 7 or 8 years old. Driving cars of really, you know, powerful cars since he was 14, 15 years old. So, you know what? Fingers crossed. I have concerns. I have concerns that perhaps wasn't the right move. Maybe it might put too much pressure on him. But I suspect young Solberg is capable of dealing with that pressure. We will have to wait and see, because it will grow. Unless the season starts off with some solid performances, all that will happen is that pressure will grow. So I am a little bit surprised by the whole Hyundai situation. The most surprising point for me is that Hyundai let Breen go. I don't get it. I just don't get it. My understanding is that perhaps Tanak and Neuville, they were pushing to have Breen there. You know, they could see the benefits, the strength in a Tanak, Neuville, Breen team. But it's not happened. It's not happened. For whatever reason, he's gone, which for Breen is the best thing, because he wouldn't have been number one driver, clearly, at Hyundai. He has gone to Ford, number one driver. Best thing for Breen. Hyundai, I'm not so sure. We'll wait and see, folks. Listen, there is also, I think, coming out this week, the confirmation of what Latvala told us in Finland, that Lappi will be again sharing, again back in the Toyota fold, sharing that third car with Ogier. We don't yet know how many events Ogier is going to do. We thought initially 5 or 6. We're now thinking maybe as little as 3 or 4. We'll have to wait and see. He'll pick and choose the events that he enjoys, pick and choose the events where he feels, you know, enjoyment generally is fighting for wins. So he'll pick and choose the events he thinks he can win on, and Lappi will do the others. Whether or not they'll find another car for Lappi on the events that Ogier contests, we'll have to wait and see. That's possible, just to keep the consistency going for Lappi. But Lappi was remarkably good in Finland, and you know, I think he certainly did enough to show that he deserves another chance. For me, he is one of the most naturally gifted drivers we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years. He has remarkable pace and bravery. There is something not quite there yet, but like Breen, he's still not the finished article. Something not quite there yet with Lappi, but I trust Latvala to bring out the best in Lappi next year, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if during the course of the next year or two that Lappi adds wins to his CV. He's got that one win in Finland way back in whenever it was, 2017 I think it was. But you know, Lappi is a solid addition to that Toyota team. So, folks, lots of news. Don't think I missed anything out. David Evans, have I missed anything out? No, there you go. No, he's not really listening, so he wouldn't know. He wouldn't know. Nothing, no. Well, yeah, David was primed. David was primed to do something towards the end of my video, and perhaps I just haven't given him enough notice. But if you look out, folks, over this glorious sound of Mull, that's the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. That's the mainland on the other side. If you ever get the chance to come up here, Mull is exquisite. It's a beautiful place. It's a stunning island. Ardnamurchan, it's equally as stunning on the Scottish mainland. Tiny little twisty roads that wind their way along the coast and through the beautiful valleys. There's no one else. Hardly anyone lives over there. So listen, folks, we have to say a very big thank you to Land Rover UK, who have loaned David and I this magnificent Land Rover Defender. He is trying to do a 3-point turn on a pier. There is 9 meters of water. David, oh dear, what is he doing? There we go. Look at that. I've got to go out and take some photographs of it quite shortly. Thank goodness he didn't put it over the edge, because that would have taken some explaining. Folks, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much to Jackie and to Pete for allowing me to take over their kitchen this morning. Thank you very much to my esteemed colleague David Evans for the props. Folks, we'll see you probably next week to bring you a post-Mull Rally. By the way, Mull Rally, you can follow it. We're doing it live on Facebook. Look up Mull Rally on Facebook. We're doing some live stage ends, live services. We'll bring you all the news, all the drama, and it's set to be a dramatic weekend. This weather is only going to get worse. What's he doing? What is he doing? Hopefully he wasn't too rude, folks. Mull Rally this weekend. Don't forget, we'll all be there. He'll be here as well, David Evans. Speak to you all later on. Thank you for your time at the kitchen table this morning. Press the button, mate.